WWE Hell in a Cell is in the books. That's right. Cody Rhodes, is he the top babyface now in all of pro wrestling? Honestly, what a hero going through with that match there after such an awful injury, which of course was explained. We'll go into great detail with that. Also going to be talking about the rest of the Hell in a Cell card, what it's going to shape up looking going forward, going in towards Money in the Bank, and so much more. And I'm not on my own for this live stream. I'm joined by the one and only NXSTEVE. How are you doing?
Very good, Steve. It's been an interesting 2 weeks since we last talked. We've obviously had Double or Nothing we've had in your house, and then Hell in a Cell. And I think I've got lucky here because Hell in a Cell seems to have the most to talk about out of all three shows that have gone on since we last spoke.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot going on, hasn't it? And obviously last night there, I mean, Cody, is the big talking point. Obviously, Seth as well needs the big shout as well because obviously, he's carried a lot of the match as well there. But obviously, to go into a bit of break of detail then. So obviously yesterday, the news reports were coming out suggesting that Cody Rhodes was, injured, that he'd actually torn his pectoral, all that was going around, that maybe a replacement might be needed as well for Hell in a Cell. The likes of Tom Colohue was breaking that news. We saw WrestleVotes as well, Dave Meltzer, PW Torch, Fightful Select, all of those good old names. And obviously we got a tweet out from Cody saying it would be a Hell in a Cell. And then we got an update after that as well saying that, it looked like Cody was going to compete despite the pectoral muscle. Obviously, as the show started, we had like Kelly Braxton on the kickoff. We also had like Corey Graves, Jimmy Smith, and Byron Saxton also discussing the situation. The truth about Cody Rhodes, the fact that he actually had partially torn this pectoral in a pull-apart with Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw, and then actually during a workout during the week, it actually tore completely. And it was, to put it kindly, for those that weren't going in not realizing it, they probably might have thought maybe this is a way to work this up, build up the last match or whatever. But when you saw Cody come out and take that jacket off, the gasp in the entire arena. To be fair, Chicago, it was silent for about the first 5 minutes of that match, really took the eyeballs, and that looked so painful. How did Cody manage to even get cleared to go through with that match?
Steve, I completely avoided social media yesterday. It's just one of them days where I'm just like, you know what, let me stay off everything. And then you text me card subject to change. And I was like, what? And you was like, yeah, one of the matches might be on. I was like, please don't tell me it's Cody versus Seth because this is the money match. This is what everyone wants to see. And you went, yeah. And I went, oh, I didn't really like, not that it's your fault, but it was like, oh my God, I'm really not going to enjoy this Hell in a Cell pay-per-view now if we're not going to get Cody versus Seth. It was the only Hell in a Cell match to be on the card. And yeah, I was like, oh, what are they going to do? But obviously, then you watch the kickoff show and they talk about the injury and all this kind of stuff. And then you could even tell in Cody's entrance, he wasn't lifting that right arm at all. He was just keeping it down, like when he does the woe for his song. And yeah, he took his jacket off. And I was sitting here with my wife, and I was like, holy, like, when my wife was like, what? And I went, look. And my wife was shocked at his arm and stuff. And I was like, my God, I was unbelievably shocked at his, like, the state and condition that he came out in. But my God, did he tear the house down with this injury?
Absolutely, yeah. If anything, it's added to this match. And obviously, one of the big questions we'll be asking during the stream is it the best Hell in a Cell match we've seen in many, many years? Obviously, Hell in a Cell, to be fair, in general, it's the first time it's been in front of fans since 2019. And of course, we remember that last time was The Fiend versus Seth Rollins. So, arguably, we've had some, decent Hell in a Cell matches in with the Thunderdome and perhaps with the, I think they both were in Thunderdome, actually. But to actually now have this in front of the live audience for the first time, I thought this could be like a make and break how well Hell in a Cell will be going forward. And obviously, you knew instantly this match was going to become more story-driven rather than match quality. I wasn't going in expecting much from Cody because I thought, well, he's got one arm. How is he going to be able to do half the things around the ring? But as the match sort of progressed, it felt like that a lot of the spots were still in there. They just were very carefully constructive around of how they did it. But I think, a round of applause has to go to both guys. First off, for Cody being able to do the match, but secondly for Seth as well, because Seth has to work with someone that's got one arm, and there has to be a lot of trust that has to go in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be honest, it wasn't really so much of a Hell in a Cell match as kind of more of like a street fight or a no holds bar, because the cell really didn't come into play, which obviously you can understand from the circumstances that they probably couldn't do half the stuff they wanted to do because of this injury. But yeah, like I said, Seth, major props to Seth because like to sit there and go, I've got to make this match the best I can. And essentially, he's like fighting a guy with one arm tied behind his tied with his arm behind his back. And yeah, this was unreal. I texted you earlier and I said this is in contention for match of the year for me because of just everything that's involved with it. Just like the injury, I know a lot of people will probably say is like, oh yeah, just because he was injured and he managed to still have a really good match. And it's like, but the story alone in this match, I think, is probably one of the best of the year. Everything from the sledgehammer to Cody, Seth coming out wearing like the polka dot print that his father used to wear. He pulled out a belt strap that was also designed, and yeah, it was just, this was some pure magic. This was.
It certainly was indeed there. Let's quickly go to the chat before we go into the actual match of the detail, because you bring a lot of points and a lot of things we need to talk about, because we're actually going to talk about the main event first. That's what we're in, because it's such a big talking point. It's what everyone's interested in. Let's not waste any time and talk about that first. But first off, let's say hello to everyone that's in the house. We'll say hello to Noob and Co. Says good afternoon to us. Hope you're doing well, Noob. Thank you for checking out. And he said it was uncomfortable to look seeing that Cody injury. It certainly was indeed. It was reminiscent of Triple H back at Crown Jewel, I believe back in 2018, if you remember.
Yeah.
We've got Two Sweet Carl, who was actually there, by the way. He was at Hell in a Cell. I'd love to know your thoughts and your experience of Hell in a Cell, so please do share in the comments. He said, I think a lot of people were shocked in seeing Cody's injury. Well, how was the silence for you as well there, Carl? Was it as deafening for you? Because for us at home, it just felt like everyone was in that much shock that he didn't know how to react. And, you know, for us, if anything, it intensified watching the TV. It added the drama. Did it do the same for you in the arena? Would love to know.
Especially being in Chicago, we are one of the renowned for being a hot crowd. And for them to just go silent, it was unreal.
Absolutely. It's not something you're used to seeing at all there. And just hope we're doing well as well. And we are. Thank you. We hope you are doing well as well. Obviously, coming off for a big night there, being in the All-State Arena. Marta Career says, hey, guys, what's up? Man, that was something of a show. It certainly was indeed. We're looking forward to digesting, giving you a bit of everything there. And I think Noob personally says he's never going to forget that match between Seth and The Fiend. And I have a feeling that could be for the wrong reasons rather than the right reasons. But we'll be talking more about Seth and Hell in a Cell as well later on, because I think Seth may have redeemed himself since that, especially after last night. But he said, Two Sweet Carl says, I think we've got two Match of the Year candidates last night with the opener and the main event, which is really nice. We'll be talking about them first, which is quite nice. Yeah, almost a bit of a sandwich of a show, wasn't it? Because the rest was a bit of filler. But yeah, we'll go on then to say that Marta Career here saying that no matter what Cody decided to do, he got people talking and did the impossible, in my opinion. He certainly did indeed. And a shout as well to NWC, Non-Stop Wrestling Chat, also is in the house. He says, I think it was one of the best Hell in a Cell matches we've seen in ages, as it had a story and meaning. Also, as some that has hurt their pec in the past, I have no idea how Cody done that. And yeah, I think that's a really good point as well. I mean, that sort of injury, just to even go out there. I mean, like, I watched Brian Alvarez, and he stated about the idea of, you know, like having injuries like this. And they said about this doctor that had done this sort of thing that wouldn't have cleared him. But the idea was almost that because it was partly torn, WWE probably wouldn't have put him in there. But because it was fully torn, all the damage had been done. So if Cody could kind of brave the pain, why not go for it? I mean, for me, I still can't believe it, because, I mean, he must be waking up today and feeling really sore and thinking, was this the right thing to do?
Yeah, but then I think if you look back at the reaction, I mean, if you take out a lot of people's criticisms of his condition and stuff like that, I think if you look at more at the rave reviews that this got from everyone, I think that more than kind of makes up for fighting through it injured. And yeah, like I said, because because he was injured, he might have done something worse, like a rotator cuff or something, because of his limitations. But the damage was already done. So yeah, praise to Cody for going out and doing that, man. Because you wouldn't find a lot of guys that would do that. A lot of guys would just could probably go out there and say, no, I can't wrestle in this condition. But the guy is a showman, and the guy loves the art, and he loves the fans, and he wanted to do what he could to make sure the fans got what they paid to see.
Absolutely, indeed. There. I mean, the only thing I would say, I mean, I have seen a couple of to the contrary, to the reverse as well, saying about like how this may be a precedent going forward, because Cody, you know, obviously he deserves rewards after this. You know, he can't be he's going to be off for a bit of time, obviously, but when he comes back, you would think that maybe a push will be heading into WrestleMania, maybe a Royal Rumble win if he can get back in time. But does this put out a precedent that superstars now will be expected to go and do this every time?
No. I don't think so. Like I said, I think this was a pure a one-off, just because we said that we know Cody knew that he couldn't do any more damage to the injury. Like I said, he'd fully torn it. If it was a partial, WWE would have stopped him. I think this is just one of them rare freak accidents. I mean, we've seen it before where WWE have had to change match cards because of injuries, because of illness. I think this is just a pure once in a lifetime, or once in a blue moon moment where they've just gone through with it. I think this is probably more down to Cody than anything as well, because at the end of the day, he's the one that gets the final say in it all, because you could have 50 guys tell him that you're going to do it. At the end of the day, if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. So, yeah, I believe this is all down to Cody.
Absolutely, indeed. And just to go a little bit ahead in one of the comments here, Two Sweet Carl says, after the show went off air, Cody spoke and the crowd really showed their respect then. And obviously, I mean, apparently Cody as well, if I'm not mistaken, said that he was completely his decision as well. So, yeah, I mean, that was a big thing that come from him to the Chicago crowd. And obviously, he's got that massive respect. We'll go through the rest of the comments quickly, and then we're going to dive into detail of the match as well, but it's fascinating. It really, really is to hear what everyone's got to say. But Two Sweet Carl just going to say it was silent for 5 minutes, and then the weapons came into play. The crowd was hot all night, and until they revealed the injury on the Tron. And I think, I mean, there was a hot Chicago crowd, as it always is. We say it's one of the hottest crowds in wrestling, isn't it? Without question.
Yeah, and I mean, it was if like for us at home, I think the emphasis that the commentators pointed on as well. So you had Byron Saxton, Corey Graves, and I forget the main commentator, but the emphasis that they were saying, like less than 90% is, I think, an overestimate. Like 50, like they were saying 50%, I think is more of a fair game. I thought this really helped this product as well. And like I said, it was just one hell of a moment in WWE history.
It is, yeah. I mean, this is going to be a career-defining moment, I'd like to think, for Cody. Yes. Obviously, for me, I look at it like WWE 2K, like 35 or something. You're going to go back and you're going to play through this story on storyline mode for Cody as being a legend 100%. At that point in WWE. I can imagine that being the case. But Martin saying that I hate the slander on WWE. They probably didn't want him to do it, but he still went and did it. What opinion do you have on this situation? I mean, if there is hate and slander on WWE, like Cody said, it was on him, and we've said there like, no more damage could have been done, apparently, to this muscle. I can't really comment. Thankfully, having him in that situation wouldn't have to go for a match either. But, Cody put himself through it, and he put himself through the runner. And obviously, if it is, then, apparently he's going to address it on Raw this evening as well, as Two Sweet Carl says. Yeah. So for me, I mean, I think that's where WWE gets more in the clear for this.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just, like I said, if WWE didn't want to do it, they would have stopped it altogether, and they would have changed the card, and they would have had something else, or they would have changed the lineup and had maybe the Raw Women's title go last and changed it and put it in a Hell in a Cell or something like that. So, yeah, I think this is also Cody. I think this is also like a thank you for Cody to the fans, because he's been through a lot, especially with his AEW run, and like how everything played out with there. And like a lot of people, including myself at certain points, were feeling that he was overbooking himself and he was booking himself too strong. And he's just turned around and be like, look, essentially just trust me. Like, I'm doing this for you guys. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it to get to where I want to be. So like, that were my feelings about it.
I can understand that entirely, and you make a very good valid points with that as well there. And like I say, I look forward to seeing what will be going on Raw with this. Obviously tonight, I was going to say tomorrow evening there, but probably for tomorrow for me by the time I end up watching it. But certainly will be this evening, especially for Two Sweet Carl in the States there, and of course, who was enjoying the show live there. Noob says maybe the Cody Rhodes showcase could be next year. You never know. They'll probably make a big deal that he's in the game when they eventually get that far. Jonesy is in the house as well. I hope you're doing well, Jonesy, and look forward to seeing your thoughts on the show. So he's surprised that we let Cody go out there in that condition. Obviously, as we were shocked as well completely, but obviously it looks to be like.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is as well? I think with the likes of Vince McMahon, we saw that thing at Mania where you had who was the NFL player that was reluctant to jump off the top of the thing, and Vince went and did it himself. Gronkowski did it, and Vince went, "Nah, do you know what? I do it." And I think Vince has probably turned around and gone, "Do you know what? If I had that same injury, I'd go out there and do it." And I think Vince has looked at it from that point of view. Like, these two have sort of come to an agreement that Vince would do it if he had the injury. So Cody's going to do it. He's got the injury, and I think that again, that's another reason why Vince has allowed him to do it. Because at the end of the day, Vince gets the final say.
Absolutely, indeed. And I 100% agree with that there. And we're going to go into the breakdown of the match in just a couple of seconds. But first off, just going to give Noobs shout out for MVPs last night. Cody Rhodes, of course, having to take that top spot. Then Asuka, Bianca, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch. Certainly a worthy top 5 there in that list there. And yeah, we've got a couple more comments then, and we will go into the detail of the match. Noob also saying that Cody Rhodes has been through it for the past 6 years since leaving WWE, but now I've got nothing but respect for him and his indie days to AEW. And certainly respect needs to go on the Cody Rhodes name. Certainly think that no one can argue that at this point. Jones was saying that I think besides the opening main event, it was another episode of Raw. Sad but true. We'll be getting through into the entire show very shortly for you, Jonesy. But we'll start off then, as we said, in a bit of a different way. Rather than going chronologically, we will go through the main event first. So let's talk about Seth Rollins' entrance. Let's talk about the dusty dots on the ring attire. For me, absolute genius.
He does it again. We said this at Backlash when he come out wearing his Mania attire, and like he was playing off like Mania never happened. And we've seen it before. He's done it with Roman when he faced him and he come out in the Shield attire. And I'd love to think that this is all Seth's ideas, and Seth's turned around and gone, do you know what? I need ring gear and I want it to look like Dusty's polka dot gear. He is just a complete mental assassin, and he just knows how to play mind games with people, and I absolutely love him for it. I love nothing more than tuning in to see what suit he's wearing, because normally his suits are so outlandish and outrageous that they're always memorable, but whenever he does stuff like this, it just adds so much to the product and to the story and everything involved.
It certainly does indeed. And I mean, it just adds different depths and different layers into the match. And obviously, we've already mentioned about Cody's entrance. We've mentioned about, obviously, the look of it. But obviously, breaking early doors into the match, obviously, Cody was left with one arm. But, Seth very early sort of taking advantage into the match. But obviously, you made mention about the polka dots belt that came into play. Another stroke of genius, and played well into the narrative of the storyline that we'd seen on Raw leading up to the show as well. So good that they brought that into the cell.
Yeah, and the fact that like Cody was fine with taking it across the chest as well, I think is a massive thing, because let's be honest, when he did it the other week with the white belt on Raw, Seth didn't hold back. He's proper gone for him with that, and you could tell the echo that belt makes when it goes across skin it's not a pretty noise. So Seth was going for it, and Cody was fine with it. And again, this is just another thing that just makes this so much more impressive.
It certainly really does indeed. And obviously, Seth going with the kendo stick as well into the injured area. They're just some really moments where you just wanted to wince. We see, we said the cell wasn't used so much, but obviously a few moments where we sort of thrown into it on the outside of the ring. There was a couple of moments like that. But then the match took a bit of a turn. Obviously, Cody managed to find his way in places, and hopefully, I think actually I'm missing one bit out, which I should mention first, actually, because Chicago was crying out for a table all night, wasn't they? Particularly during
you missed one before that, Steve. You've missed the cowbell.
That was the next bit I was going to do. I was going to mention the cowbell.
I thought the cowbell was before the table.
Was it before that? There was two tables, so
there was two tables and a cowbell, and I was like, the cowbell. Well, it might have been after. My apologies, but like I said, the cowbell for me, I thought was absolutely brilliant. But carry on, man, carry on.
Well, we can mention about the cowbell first, because obviously it's a Cody tradition. It's a Rhodes tradition as well. Obviously, they saw it as his one big chance as well to get back into the match also. And for me, like you said, there was a brilliant touch that was brought into this match. And for a second, it kind of evened the odds up as well, because obviously Seth is tied to it as well. But he took advantage, Seth, didn't he? Obviously using the ring post as well at one point to really get that advantage. And then the table came into play. Obviously the crowd were cheering and hoping for this, obviously, from the moments that we had the Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin match, and we didn't get that in the No Holds Barred match that we had there. Do you think that WWE missed the trick here, because Rollins was the one to get it out, and we got the thank you Rollins chance, where perhaps maybe we could have just seen Cody take it out with one arm and then Rollins set it up?
I would like to think that it was like we've discussed before, like where they've asked for tables. I presumed it was already a pre-planned spot, so that's the reason why they didn't allow Corbin and Moss to use the table spot. But then, personally, for me, we'll get into it more when we get into the Corbin Moss match. But I think Corbin played that out brilliantly with the chance for the table, and I thought he was great dealing with it all. But yeah, again, I believe this was just a pre-planned spot that they're going to be like, we're not going to have too many table spots that are exactly the same as what happened. And like I said, and then with Moss and Corbin, they end up going a different way and using the ring step. So for me, I think it actually worked out better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the way you look things into stories and stuff like that does work out better. But like I said, we'll touch more into the Corbin and Moss match later on. But obviously going back into this match, then as we got towards the finish, obviously there was Seth put himself through the table the first time anyway, in particular, obviously, which I thought was good because it's a way of making a big spectacle in the match without doing too much to Cody's body. So again, it works into the brilliant narrative of the match. But one other bit of narrative that was beautifully done as well was the bringing in of the sledgehammer. Obviously, we've had the tribute to Dusty throughout a lot of the match, but towards the end, especially the end of the story here, towards the go home show, the ideology of Triple H has come into a lot into this match. So the fact that we saw that here, Seth actually attempting a pedigree, Cody hitting a pedigree, we've wanted it for a long, long time. That those moments were quite magical.
Yeah, and there was other details in this that I thought were. Like, I've heard a lot of people critique and say that Seth losing 3 times in a row makes him look weak. But then my argument for that is Seth didn't do that many near falls. Like, he pinned Cody and Cody kicked out. But I think I can only remember maybe one near fall through the entire match where we had Cody pinning Seth. And then I think the one after that was the actual one where he won. And I think that, for me, balances it out because you've made... It's hard to explain, but it's like the way that a lot of people feel about Seth being sort of like make it look like he's not strong enough. But I just thought it was perfect in the way they did it all. But yeah, the sledgehammer and the pedigree when that will come into it and say these near falls, and it was unbelievable. And the crowd was so hot for this match, and it made it so much more than I was expecting it to be. Like, I was expecting it to be good, but I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Like, I had fears, like on your predictions video with Jonesy, I said, is there a slight concern that maybe there's too much hype behind this match and it will under-deliver? But it blew past all expectations that I had for it.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you on that. It certainly was better than I thought. And again, that will be the question we're going to ask at the moment. Is it the best one we've had in years? Because, I mean, as we go towards the finish of the match, yes, there was a curb stomp, there was a kick out. Yes, there were crossroads and there were kick outs. But as we got to the finish there, Cody hitting 2 crossroads, looking across the ring, and then picked up a sledgehammer, hitting Rollins with that sledgehammer. And I don't care what anyone says, if you've been hit with a sledgehammer, you're going down for a 3 count. There's no harm in losing to that way. And to be fair, I mean, unbelievable match. I'd love to know your star rating for this out of 5.
For me, I'm gone 5 just because I think that everything building up to it, like a lot of people thought it was a work with this injury, but then you see him come out, his condition, the fact that he's willing to put his body on the line for this, the way Seth played it, and the fact that as soon as he takes the coat off, they pan to Seth, who's just laughing in his face, as if you say, I've got this in the bag. And I just thought it was brilliant. Everything that went on, all the spots, Seth putting himself through the table, the pedigree reversed into a pedigree, the Cody cutters, the stomp that Cody kicked out of. I just thought this was unbelievable. And like I said, it's up there for me at the minute as one of the matches of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, to be fair, anything other than 5 stars does this a travesty of a rating because, I mean, he's given everything, Cody, into this. And Seth has played ball as well. They managed to tell a beautiful story. If you can't get into the story, you can't get into the match. That was something I told myself at the start of this because I was expecting myself, right, this will be very story-driven, this match. Cody will have limitations. But there were, like, Cody didn't hold back a lot. I mean, he still did a lot of stuff with what he could do. And I mean, to be fair, Cody is going to be on the shelf for a while now. The expectation usually when this is an injury like this, I believe, is between 6 months to a year. Usually 9 months, I think, is the common area.
They reckon that at the earliest he'll be available is Rumble time. At the latest, you're looking March, so maybe March going into Mania in April at the latest. So it's a very tight window, especially if they want to get Cody on the WrestleMania card for next year.
Absolutely. I mean, if they can get him back in time for the Rumble like they did with Cena, I mean, Super Cena got back in, I think it was like under 4 months when they did that,
Yeah,
of course, back in the 2008 Rumble. And no one can or should expect that. But obviously, if you can get him back in time for the Rumble, for me, I think he would be a great shout to win it. Personally, it would be an early prediction at this point because we love a surprise at the Rumble. We love a number 30 to come out and do the magic. And I think Cody, if he could do that, can get back in time. And you know he's going to push himself to the limit to get back as quick as he possibly can.
100%.
He wouldn't want to miss that WrestleMania match and have that potential to have a big main event match. I think it's definitely a goer. And for those that say, what about Reigns versus Rock? There's 2 nights of WrestleMania. Maybe they can make it happen. Maybe night 2 is when Cody gets that match and they get Rock for night 1.
Reigns versus Rock doesn't need a title. That's what I'm hoping if they end up doing that for Mania is that the titles are not on Roman by this point. Whether, I don't know, hopefully maybe Drew picks them up in Cardiff. That's what I'm feeling at the minute. But then again, like I said, it's very hard. It's very hard to tell at the minute because no Roman on TV leaves you sort of questioning. I know there's a lot of stuff out there here whose next 3 opponents are, but yeah, if they're going to do Rock Roman, for me, it doesn't need a title. And then, like I said, I'm hoping that I personally hope that it's. I know Seth said after the match that's it. He's done with. Cody did the thing after the match where he said, "I'm done with Seth, 3 and done, no more." But I would love to see these 2 go at it again next year for a world title.
It could potentially happen. We have so much happening in between them. Money in the Bank. We've got obviously 6 months of WWE programming. Obviously, Survivor Series usually is Raw versus SmackDown. Will they split the titles up at some point later in the year? There's lots of questions that we could see. And maybe Seth is the favorite in the Rumble until Cody shows up and they have the stare down. There could be like the final 2 or the first person that Cody throws over the top rope is Seth Rollins. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it again when he comes back.
Maybe we get a Seth in. Seth's the last guy before the 30th entrant comes out, and then everyone's waiting to see who it is. And we get essentially Cody Rhodes return on the level of Mania, where he just comes out at the Rumble at number 30. It's just them 2 to see who wins and goes on to Mania.
Certainly, indeed. There, we've got a great question that's coming from Martin, but spot in the meantime on Raw while he's gone.
It possibly could be Bobby Lashley. I mean, Bobby Lashley after last night has obviously he's got a major push and he's made his feelings clear. But this is a massive blow to WWE because all their planning. I'm sure they obviously had stuff in the background, but I don't know whether there's going to be a switch over to say maybe Drew on Raw or Bobby on Raw. I know Drew's on SmackDown, but they keep changing it up nowadays. It couldn't potentially be anyone. So, I mean, with what looks to be the end of the brand split, then hopefully this won't be as big a problem as what a lot of people may think it be, because they can now intertwine the brand, the rosters, and people can come over and they can do something else. I mean, like I said, I think Cody versus Roman was probably on the lines at some point in the near future. But I think, like I said, I think then Roman's next 3 opponents are like Riddle, Orton, and Drew McIntyre. So you would be looking at least Survivor Series maybe for Cody and Roman, but that's obviously now going to be delayed if it does happen.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it will sort of play out between now and then. But I agree with you. Quite clear last night with the way he made his intentions clear. Obviously, that's the next show. Cody was favourite to win Money in the Bank at the time. I still would love Theory to win it. And I know in previous you've mentioned about Seth Rollins winning it. So we've got perhaps some different ways we'd like to win it. But I think Lashley would make a lot of sense to be a top guy in the meantime on Monday Night Raw. And of course, say, for example, Lashley was to win Money in the Bank. He can cash in any time up to a year when it seems appropriate to go against Roman Reigns. To winning it like a Seth Rollins, and then they can have a good feud going on after.
Yeah, it's like I said, it just depends on what they're going to do with Lashley going forward. Because, like, I'm hoping that I was watching Wrestle Talk earlier, and they were saying about they might be looking to go back to doing the whole Bobby and Hurt business versus the Bloodline, which we had at Crown Jewel last year. And I really don't want to go back to visiting a rivalry that really didn't live up to the hype to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you 100% there. I mean, you want to follow it through if you're going to do it. But the thing is, though, with Cedric, he's been against Lashley so many times and stuff. I'm not sure how it would work. But hey, they sort of had a bit of a handshake after last night. Don't get involved in all my matches. So maybe that's a teaser where he will do, but perhaps maybe for his benefit later down the line. But we'll touch more on that in a minute. And we've been asked there maybe a Lashley versus Rollins feud next then. I'd like to think so. That's certainly something I would like to see come out of Money in the Bank, but that's just a personal preference. Is it a feud you'd like to see?
That actually sounds pretty good, but it needs to be, yeah, like I said, it needs to be something that's made after Money in the Bank, because that's what they need to focus on now. They need to start. I'd like them to do qualifiers for Money in the Bank and not just turn around and go, this guy, this guy, and this guy, and this guy are in it. I want a reason to tune in every week now, so I want to see qualifiers for it. Maybe this could be the start of a possible Rollins-Lashley feud that is progressed through the whole build-up to Money in the Bank that can then carry on after Money in the Bank.
Certainly, indeed. There. Well, let's ask the big question then before we go in for the rest of the show. Was this the best Money in the Bank? Was this the best Hell in a Cell match we've had in the last few years?
Yeah, 100%. The last one I can probably put on par with being up there as one of the greatest moments in wrestling, like Hell in a Cell history. Is probably Taker versus Shawn Michaels, and that was however many years ago. So yeah, for me personally, I think this is one of the best ones we've had in a very, very, very long time.
Absolutely, indeed. There for me, it's definitely a decade, end of an era. Probably the last one that's probably on par with this. I mean, even that though, that was great storyline driven Hell in a Cell match of emotion, but this one had a hint of realism, which really, if anything, argues and puts it even a level above. This one's going to be one that we're going to remember for years to come. A real start-making moment for Cody. The American Nightmare there could make his dreams come true further down the line in WWE when he makes his comeback.
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel that this almost feels like it's a 6-year story that's been going on between these two, even though they've barely crossed paths. Like, it just, like, everything that's gone on with Cody and how, like, obviously the sledgehammer on the throne when he was in AEW, and Seth being a Triple H guy, and Cody was, like, had all his hype about him years ago. It feels like, it's like I said, I've been watching this story for 6-7 years, and we kind of got sort of a finale to it all that hopefully will go on to, say, for me personally, a title match at Mania next year.
That's certainly what I would like to come out of it as well. That would really, really be the one. And just to say, with some of the matches that have been really good in Hell in a Cell recently, while they don't maybe make up to the mark, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for one, fantastic in the Thunderdome era, was a really good story along with it. But I think all of them in the Thunderdome era suffer because of the fact they weren't in front of an audience. And I think there is just that hint where this was realism put into this. For a minute, like the Hell in a Cell stipulation meant something to me that it hasn't done for years. It was a glorified steel cage match of what WWE does in the modern day. The steel cage match has almost been like, well, you might as well like a bouncy castle. That stipulation doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Hell in a Cell had become what steel cage was, but this really felt like Hell in a Cell because, I mean, here I felt myself, Cody was probably going through absolute torture, which is what the stipulation is meant to represent all along.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this injury is almost kind of a blessing because it added a lot more to the story than you would. Like, don't get me wrong, these two would have knocked it out of the park if it was just a normal match, but adding this injury into it, I think it just added so much more anticipation, excitement, intrigue, just to see what would happen and how the outcome of this match would play out.
Absolutely, indeed. And this is proof as well that you don't need to go flying off the Hell in a Cell to prove that it's a good Hell in a Cell match. This is going to be an absolute classic. We'll talk for years to come. But I tell you what, we've been talking for 32 minutes about Cody Rhodes, the pectoral injury, and Seth Rollins as well. There were other things that took place on this show. So without further ado, we're going to be talking about the rest of the content. And say, encourage everybody to put in the comments below what they did think of this show and anything that we're talking about as well. Any questions you want to throw in too. But we'll talk about then the Raw Women's Championship, which was the opener of the show. And Asuka. This, for me, was a phenomenal triple threat match. I thought it was going to be like a match of the night candidate, but this still went above and beyond expectations.
Unreal.
The idea of the athleticism and power game of Bianca Belair, the striking ability and submission style based of Asuka, and particularly the striking was really on form from Asuka on this, and the psychology of Becky Lynch, just all these different ingredients thrown into this match made an absolute barn burner. The amount of near falls that we had in this match, usually someone just
Beautiful.
laying on the floor, or the fact that Asuka would have to
Beautiful.
make the save at the very last second was so good to see. I mentioned the striking of Asuka, but why not the double ankle lock that was done at one point, and just seeing the fear in Bianca and Becky's face as they get to the ropes and get outside was just absolutely genius. I love the feeling as well of how Becky throughout the entire match was trying to find the cheap way to win, because of course she was the one that's used to winning a lot of triple threat matches. She's had a lot of success with them in the past, but got a bit too arrogant one too many times and found herself being thrown to the outside after hitting the manhandle slam on Asuka for Bianca to get the pin. And instead of looking like, oh, that's like a heel move from the babyface, it just looked like a smart babyface. The babyface wasn't dumb, and you see the smile of like, see, you're trying to outsmart me, I can outsmart you. For me, this ticked a lot of boxes, and I was a big fan of this triple threat.
For me personally, I think the biggest shock value I had from it was the pace of it, because this was fast.
Yeah.
This was non-stop. Like, you didn't have a moment to pause because these ladies were going at it. And like you said, the three different styles, the power style of Bianca, the striking style, and the technical ability of Becky, just the way these three intertwined. And I just thought this was absolutely brilliant. I was the same as you, and I thought this could possibly be match of the night. And then after it finished, I was like, that could possibly be match of the year for me, because that was amazing. To think that what we could have got when it would have been Sasha versus Naomi versus Bianca. I think this actually turned out for the better, having the three of them go at it, because I would pay to see that match again, because it was that good. And I loved it from minute go to minute end. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. And the way that Bianca stole the victory after Becky hit the Exploder on Asuka, I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. And I just thought it was a great way to do Becky her own story. I just thought it was unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed there. And of course, the bad booking that had been done there for Naomi and Sasha, it seems there. They could have been in hopefully some great matches in Hell in a Cell, but they chose not to do so. But we'll see. Maybe they'll return back to WTV in the next month or so. I wouldn't be surprised if they are back at some point in the future. But going on to it, for me, this was a fantastic match. 18 minutes for me. I think that this match has to easily get a 4.25 star. I think it was really, really good. And it almost made the feeling of like the matches after this, like, how can you follow this?
Yeah, exactly. It was when we talked before the show started, and we obviously had that fear that Cody was possibly out, and then we're going to change the card. And I was dreading watching this match, or dreading watching the pay-per-view in total, because I really thought that some of it I thought it was just going to be in general a sort of okay middle of the rope, sort of middle down the street sort of pay-per-view or premium live event. To start this off, this got me hyped for the rest of the show, which is exactly what it needed to do. And I think as well, you obviously the ladies would have known about Cody and stuff like that, and they would have known like that's probably going to get a lot of the attention. So we need to do something here to make sure that we get not as much, but near enough the same amount of attention for our match. And for me, it was up there. It was unbelievable, and props to him for putting on a killer match.
I have to agree entirely with you. And I think you make a fantastic point as well. Man, let's not remember, Seth and Becky are married as well. So, I mean, obviously, like you say, it does give that sort of effect of like, we need to do something. We need to try and make this, make a standout. And maybe it makes superstars raise their game. And incredible match here. And got a couple of great comments that have come flying in as well there. Noob and Co having a shout here saying Asuka just went crazy with those combos. I don't know what is going on with her, but Asuka going supersonic. Like what you've done there, fast in that match there. Of course, I totally agree with you. I mean, to be fair, this is why, we're going off the Q&A yesterday. This is why I'm really enjoying what we're seeing with Asuka at the minute. It doesn't feel stale for me, what we're seeing with Asuka right now. I'm enjoying the story of Becky. At moments of this match, they genuinely made me believe when I went into this show, thought there's no way that any other result than Bianca winning. I bought a number of those near falls because so many of them were so close to that 3 count. And there were one or two general occasions I went, they're going to give this to Asuka.
Yeah, that is exactly what you want in a wrestling match. Is you want the unpredictability, and there was just those near falls were like 2 9/10, and it was so good, so well timed by the girls, and just unbelievable. I mean, I know again it's the same thing again. A lot of people critique the fact that Bianca beat both Asuka and Becky, but I think, for me personally, I think it's got to be Bayley that takes the title off Bianca. I think there's that unfinished story from last year before Bayley got injured, and I think that's probably what they're trying to build towards. So having her beat Bianca and having her beat Becky and Asuka, but then to have Bayley come back and Bayley beat her, I just think would do a lot more for Bayley on a return point. And yeah, like I said, Asuka, let's not get wrong, Asuka's the hero of the Thunderdome era for me. She was the top female star. She was killing it, especially when we had the stupid Money in the Bank match that went through the entire building. I thought she was the outstanding character in that. And yeah, she can't do no wrong. Like I said, people were just sitting there critiquing her, saying, "Oh, I wish she'd won. I wish she'd won." It's like, and a lot of people are rinsing Bianca and saying that like they're booking her too strong, and it's like, nah, I think there's a longer game here that not everyone's not seeing. Everything's looking at the now instead of the future and what's going to happen with it. Because, like I said, if they can bring Bayley back and Bayley beats Bianca, that's going to do more for me with Bayley than it will do with Asuka losing at the minute. Because, not being funny, Asuka and Becky can take losses because we know they can get wins. It's not the end of the rope for them.
Absolutely not. They've got a few to conclude as well, and they'll probably go for Money in the Bank, and then they'll probably have a blow off at SummerSlam. So I wouldn't be surprised for that. And I mean, Martin says, "What a great opener for a PL in a while." Bianca Belair just keeps surprising the crowd, and that's the thing. She delivers. She's such an amazing ring performer. And just when you have that feeling of forgetting what she can do in the ring, she always brings something else out of the bag each and every time. The flips, the athleticism. I mean, this was an athlete to say the very, very least in this match.
Yeah, and like I said, when Becky had her in the armbar and she lifts her up one-handed, and you're like, this is just showing how much more that this woman can do. Like it almost feels like people think that she's limited to what she can do, but she can do so much. And yeah, it's amazing what she can do in the ring.
It certainly is indeed there. And we'll go through the other comments we've got quickly because there's some of the highlights for some of those in the match. Noob and Co saying even Becky and Bianca are in total fear when they crap themselves. That's not the Oscar we're currently watching. That's the NXT Oscar everyone is seeing. And do you know what? If that's the case and that's what's being brought back in here, I'm all for it. What I'm seeing right now with Asuka, I'm really enjoying it. And Martin saying that Bianca is picking up Becky while doing the disarmer and modifying to the KOD was unbelievable. That is very true. That was. And also saying here that they gave him a bit more like half an hour. It's the perfect way to get invested in the show, in my opinion. It was an unbelievable start to this premium live event. I think the match time I think was around 20 minutes. Then the bit of the highlight package beforehand and the entrances, like you say, it probably took the first half an hour to 35 minutes of the show. And it was a perfect way to get things going. And obviously, I can't remember if I asked you a star rating for this match. I think I did.
You didn't. No. You said 4.25. I'm gonna go with a 4 just because I thought the Seth Cody match did a lot more for me. I just thought this was just an exciting. There wasn't a lot of story with this one. It was more just pure great wrestling for me. So yeah, I'm gonna go 4 out of 5 for me.
Lovely indeed. Then we'll move on then to Bobby Lashley going in the handicap match, defeating MVP and almost. Before we even get to the match, the diss track from MVP. I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about this on any video that I've watched today, so I'm going to bring it up. What did you think of it?
It's terrible, man. It's honestly, it's terrible. But props to him for doing it, man. Like I said, I presume he had some sort of input into it. But yeah, it's not for me. It's like. I'm trying to think like of whoever's done rap gimmicks previously that'd been so like at least with John Cena and the Doctor Thugonomics, his rapping kind of was it was entertaining, but this stuff was just like nah, not for me, unfortunately. I think MVP should just stick to being a mouthpiece. I don't think he needs to rap personally.
No, he doesn't. No, to be fair, it's not on a Max Caster level or a John Cena like you say. But I've got to say though. A bit of me was sports entertained. I don't know if that says more about me than other people, but I didn't mind it for what it was, and we got into the match anyway. Definitely for me, it was more exciting than most of the build to it anyway. But looking at it, we probably had the slowest run into pushing someone through a barricade in history of almost doing it to Bobby Lashley. What were your thoughts of that barricade spot?
It was exactly what you just said. It's like, we know Elvis isn't the biggest guy. I would rather have seen him thrown him for it or something. But you could, when the worst part was they showed a replay and you could see the actual point of contact between Lashley and Bobby, and it was terrible. But I can't blame Omos. It's not his fault he can't move as quick. The guy's like 7 foot tall, and I'm not going to argue with him about it. But yeah, it wasn't the best, but it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I have to agree there. No, it wasn't the best way. And the thing is, what we should do, like, if you have like the old sort of Sky remote, we can watch things in like the +2. Maybe it might be normal speed if you can watch it on playback. I don't know, but maybe those can see after Monday Night Raw tonight. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it is what it is. But obviously, we get towards the closing end of the match, and Cedric Alexander had been told, by the way, before the match, after trying for the 50th millionth time about the Hurt Business. It's done. It's not a part of it. Cedric randomly threw himself into the match to sort of distract Omos, was thrown out of the ring. That turned the point of the match where Lashley could hit a spear on Omos. Then he got MVP onto himself, made him tap out to the Hurt Lock. For me, I mean, I thought this match, again, it was fine. It was not anything that I'm going to turn around and say I need to go out my way to watch it again. I wouldn't say it was actively bad either. This just was a match for me. But obviously, I think the main important thing of this is, that, like we said there after the match there, Bobby Lashley, a replica title from the crowd, which I'm assuming was a plant, by the way. I'm just going to throw my 2 cents into that. What were your thoughts of this match, and obviously what could be the fallout going forward?
For me, this was perfectly placed on the card, because after the great women's match to start off with, this was kind of just like one of the matches that they needed to put out there. This was a TV match for me. It was there to fill time. It's just I can't. I got a feeling that we're going to get like a tag team match tonight. We're going to get Cedric and Bobby versus MVP and Omos again on Raw. That's what it just feels like, that we're going to get this repeat of it. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I just hope, like you said, I hope it's all done and dusted, and we don't have to go on with this storyline anymore. I just think it's been I predicted that Bobby was going to win anyway, but it doesn't make sense for what they're trying to do with Omos. So I have no idea where Omos goes from here. Hopefully, Bobby can just put himself back into the main event scene.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm hoping that with Omos, they can go to just television matches on Raw, and we can move on from this. But apparently, Free Bobby is trending. Thanks, Jonesy, for that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what will go on, if it does continue or not. I'm hopeful that Bobby Lashley is going to be inserted into the Money in the Bank ladder match, and we can sort of move on. We haven't got to go through more premium live events of this, because, to be fair, I've had enough of it. It's filler. Need to move on to something else, in my personal opinion. But Martin asking here, who man runs like Omos? Honestly, well, he's a big dude, isn't he?
He shouldn't run. You don't see these big guys running. When did you ever see Andre the Giant run? When did you ever see the great Gonzalez run? Do you know what I mean? It's like they just shouldn't do it. He should be a powerhouse. He should dominate. He should do choke slams and power bombs. Like, that's what they should have done with him. But yeah, I don't know why they decided to just make him run and push Bobby through a barricade. It just didn't make sense to me.
No, I have to agree with that entirely there. But we'll quickly go into some of the other comments here. We've got MVP's rap was the best thing of the whole thing, in his opinion. I actually would possibly
of the whole match.
That.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah,
probably true. But Liverpool said, "I hate the diss track. It was top dollar levels of bad." I like that. What is top dollar doing these days?
Yeah.
Off the last match, we never got to this one, Noob, in time. Sorry, but the rating for the triple threat match has started at 4.5 out of 5 there. A sequence of events from the combos to the finish. It was a great open. It certainly was indeed. Thanks for sharing your rating there. I'd love to know everyone else's ratings for the matches as we go through. Jones is saying that Bobby being planted to replace Cody in the main event picture. Certainly think that's a very likelihood, as we've discussed already.
Yeah, like I said, there's the Wrestle Talk was saying earlier that there's a possibility that they might be. Well, this is what they were saying, that they could possibly go with. I know Shelton Benjamin's injured at the minute, but him and Cedric Alexander, Bobby Lashley going up against the Bloodline is a possibility. It's a rehash of an old story that I'm not particularly interested to see. I'd rather just see Bobby versus Roman, if I'm honest.
Well, I mean, Jones, actually, well, you go on that other comment where he said the whole thing with the belt actually hints that, but he does say himself here, Roman versus Bobby and Money in the Bank instead of Riddle. What do you think? I mean, that probably could.
Say that again, Steve, because you cut out right at the end of that question.
I'm very sorry. I just said that maybe that match does make more sense at this point now that Bobby has signified he wants the championships.
Yeah, I think they're going to go probably with Bobby. They're more likely going to go down with the ropes that he's going to need to be in the Money in the Bank match. This whole Riddle Randy escapade or whatever they're doing with those two, whether they're going to break RK Bra up or not. I'll be honest with you, I'm just honestly sick of seeing Riddle fight one version of the Usos every week on TV, and I'd rather see something else. Don't get me wrong, I'm all with Jonesy, and I would rather see Roman versus Bobby at the Money in the Bank. I just don't think it's going to happen.
No, we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, Jones says Roman does need an opponent for the pay-per-view, and we'll have to wait and see what will happen if that will come along or not. But fingers crossed, we'll get Roman back on our screen soon. But we'll give our star rating quickly for that last match then. Bobby Lashley versus almost an MVP. 2-star. It was fine. It wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't anything super bad either. It just was there.
Yeah. I'd go with 2 as well. I'd go with a 2. It's again, yeah, it's a TV match essentially for me, and I could have probably just done with it not being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that totally indeed there. And the next match was Ezekiel versus Kevin Owens. Obviously, this was the first time these two going against with Ezekiel hitting the big knee and then going for the big elbow drop as well, Macho Man style, and obviously getting the kick out. But he was cut open hard style, it seemed, with his head being going into the ring post outside. Kevin Owens went on top of a lot of this match, probably about 80% of it. KO was on top, spending a lot of time trying to beat out the idea that he was Elias rather than Ezekiel. Instead, towards the end, he just took the victory instead, hitting the Stone Cold Stunner. I'm going to say Stone Cold Stunner because it was. I feel that this was anything that done anything for Ezekiel. I just felt KO couldn't afford the loss in this show.
I would have preferred it to have been a bit more 50-50 than 80-20. But yeah, I predicted Kevin was going to win this again. But this was a running theme for some of the matches tonight, as I didn't know what the payoff was going to. With my predictions, I couldn't understand what the payoff was going to be for the losers. So for me, Omos, I didn't know. I don't know what he's going to gain from losing to Bobby. Ezekiel, I don't know what he's going to gain from losing to Kevin. Especially like as I said, they haven't done anything on this. They're going to rehash it again and go again on Raw tonight, and they're going to get some form of thing to do with his name. But yeah, it's just a case of Kevin won and he walked off, and it was like the match was entertaining, but again, I just feel this was built up for a pay-per-view that really didn't need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, I don't know if they really know what they're going to do with this Ezekiel storyline at the minute. If they know if he is Elias or isn't Elias, I think they're probably still trying to work it out, for being brutally honest. But be interested to see what the next direction is after this, because I thought KO and Cody were going to have a feud going forward. Obviously, that's not going to be the case now. So I wouldn't be surprised if this continued a little bit more. But like you say, what is the payoff going to be at the end of this? I'm not too sure.
The only thing I can probably see, they'll probably try and drag this out to Money in the Bank, and they'll probably have Ezekiel and KO in the Money in the Bank match. That's probably where it'll go, and then, like I said, it'll probably go on after that. But I can already just sort of picture them two in the Money in the Bank ladder match now, and those two negating each other from winning the contract.
Certainly wouldn't be surprised if that was to go down. Just before we go to the comments, I will say very quickly my star rating for the match. Again, I'm going to go for a 2.25 because I think it was slightly better than the match before. But again, I felt like it was like a fine TV match.
I'm going to go 2.5 just for the pure fact that I love Kevin Owens, and I'll watch Kevin Owens wrestle all day long, even if it is essentially a throwaway match on a pay-per-view like Hell in the Cell.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Well, Jones is said to say here that this was a fun Monday Night Raw match. Ezekiel has more offense so far than whole run of Elias. Fact. Yeah, I mean, seems to have more versatility in it. Obviously, perhaps the role as well, being a babyface here, and he's got more flexibility to go out and do this sort of stuff, like off the top rope elbow and stuff. So maybe that is the case. Have you noticed that?
I know what you're talking about. Like that whole jumping knee that he does, especially the one that started off the match, I thought is beautiful. It's just one of them. It's like almost like a super kick or an RKO. It's just one of the moves that you can hit out of nowhere, and it will always get a big reaction from the crowd. So I thoroughly enjoy them. I don't know where they plan on going with this Ezekiel character. Like originally, I heard that he's supposed to be like almost Macho Man-esque, and that's like where they were planning on going with it, but. Let's be honest, there's only one Macho Man. So how they would try to replicate that, it would be very interesting to see how they would do it. But I'd rather just keep Macho Man as Macho Man and try and do something else with Ezekiel.
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. Martin's got a couple of comments here as well. Says, KO deserves a better feud, honestly. He's too good to a feud with a beardless Elias. And to be fair, coming off a WrestleMania event, I have to be honest, I do agree with it. But I have enjoyed this program for the last 2 months. I think it's been a lot of fun. But I think it is time that KO goes into a bigger program.
Yeah, that's the only plus side is the actual build to it has actually been rather entertaining and everything. Like especially bringing Chad Gable in, who week on week is consistently funny and he's so entertaining. And like how he's got himself over with his character dynamic, I think is brilliant. So yeah, there is that massive plus to it. It just seems to be a throwaway, and there's been no outcome from Kevin winning this. With like he still doesn't know if Ezekiel is Elias. So.
It's very true. We'll have to see how it's going to play out. Maybe it'll move on where Alpha Academy do it, and then maybe it's a tag team match. And can we get an Elias looky-likey come in, as Jonesy said before on the predictions? Maybe that's where they could do so. But for KO, Martin says here, he liked the KO and Sammy interaction on SmackDown 2 weeks ago was really good. Yeah, it was fun, but we have seen the feud a lot of the time. But I'm going to make a bold prediction. This is completely irrelevant to Hell in a Cell, but I reckon Sami Zayn will be a babyface by the end of the year with this Bloodline storyline. I think he eventually will get tired of being realised he's a nothing part of this, and we may even get a Sammy versus Roman mini program for like your end of the year premium live event, perhaps even day one if they're going to do that next year. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd actually like to see it. I think Sammy's a great wrestler. He's very entertaining. Yeah, you're right. It feels like Sammy's just been a heel forever. Like he's always constantly like arguing with the crowd like a heel's supposed to do, and I can't say unless I'm thinking back to maybe his first days on the main roster when he debuted. I can't think of many times where the crowd have like enthusiastically been behind him as a face. So yeah, it would be nice to see. And a feud with Roman, I feel like it's still, to me, it's still criminal that Sammy's only ever won the Intercontinental title, and that was only just last year. And for how long he's been in the company, and he's never won anything. Well, we all know he's been NXT champion, but on the main roster, he's never won anything. He's never been a US champ, a tag champ. I mean, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as a tag team is like you'd think it's one of the things that we're bound to see at some point, but it's just never happened.
No, it's very true. Very true. I mean, they both went for the title at one point against AJ and couldn't get the job done in a handicap match either. So, yeah, it's been there before. I like this. It's quite creative coming from Jones here. So reckons Ezekiel takes a bump to the head by a chair shot and then forgets who Ezekiel is and becomes Elias instantly.
It's probably going to happen.
It probably is. It's WWE level of booking and logic. But you know what? Weirdly, in a way,
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I like it
as well. Yeah, maybe
as long as he's entertaining.
Yeah, as long as it's entertaining. It seems to be the problem at the moment, Ezekiel, is when the bell rings. So at this moment, that's not a problem. So yeah, would be kind of okay.
I'd go with it.
Yeah, we should do indeed. Should we go to match 4?
Go for it, mate.
Let's go to match 4 then, which I'm trying to struggle to remember in my head now with the order of the match card now. What was the following match after this?
It was either, I don't remember the fourth match, but it was either Moss versus Corbin or Judgment Day versus Bulliv Club, whatever
it was. Yes, it was Judgment Day versus Bulliv Club. I like what you've done there, by the way. Very clever.
I stole it. It wasn't me. Don't worry.
But so yeah, it was the six-person tag that was next there, and I got to say, this for me was a really good. But this was above a TV match. I don't think it was as strong as perhaps the opener and the main event, but certainly was a lot of fun. For me, looking at this, we had some fun, innovative spots to kick off the match. Obviously, with AJ Styles assisting Liv Morgan to put her over onto Rhea Ripley to do the Hurricane Run. I thought that was a fun-looking move. And obviously, throughout this, I mean, the women took on the women, the men took on the men. But I like that Rhea Ripley continually put her body on the line. The greater good, almost. She even did that going. She did. And even into the finish as well, as Finn Balor looking to do the coup de grace off the top rope there onto Edge. Rhea standing in the way. Liv Morgan, of course, takes them both out of the ring. But, of course, that's enough time for Edge to move out of the way to get hit by the spear. Obviously, that's the main detail of the match there. But I really enjoyed this for these two. AJ Styles at one point was busted open as well. I noticed in the replay. What were your thoughts with this match?
I thoroughly enjoyed this. Just before we get into the match itself, Rhea Ripley coming out in that attire, bearing in mind that her attire never turned up. So that gear she was wearing is just thrown together stuff, and she still looked like $1 million. And I was, apparently her gear never actually properly turned up. Like I was expecting her to borrow Damian Priest gear again, like she's done before. But what she was wearing, I thought was amazing, and she looked $1 million. The entrance of them three, all in the long coats, made Judgment Day for me as an aesthetic is beautifully pleasing for me. But getting into the match itself, yes, thoroughly entertaining, thoroughly enjoyable. AJ finally managed to hit the forearm on Edge, which is obviously a big point. A lot of people are angry. A lot of people are angry at the result of this one, but for me, I think I predicted Judgment Day would win this. One, because I thought a fourth member would join, which kind of did. If you looked at the way that they all looked at Finn at the end of the match, standing in the ring, you were kind of like, we're foreshadowing there. But I just thought this made more sense, and they will push this on to Survivor. I really think this will go on to Survivor Series, or they're going to do something stupid like have Judgment Day have like 8 members, and then bring back the Judgment Day pay-per-view and just have it as everyone versus a member of Judgment Day on the pay-per-view.
Oh, that's creative. I like that idea. Go with that fourth member then. See if you're thinking the same as me.
Well, from after last night, I'm saying Finn Balor.
Think the same. I think just the same.
They were standing in the ring, just looking at him like, do you know what, kid? You did all right, man. There's promising you yet. And I was like, as much as I would love to see AJ and Finn team up, I think if we got an AJ and Finn rivalry out of it, I'd be just as excited for that because, again, I'll say it again, like I've said it on before, it's criminal that we've only seen them two have a match once on WWE TV. And yeah, I'd like to see the rivalry out of that would be really good. But yeah, I think it's going to be Finn Balor just after last night. But otherwise, I was expecting like Ciampa or someone to come out. But again, this makes more sense for me. Hopefully, they go on to Survivor Series and we get another like this mixed match 6-person tag. I thought was great. The dynamic of having the ladies in there. I don't really remember a lot of these kinds of matches that happened. I know we had the mixed match challenge, but the 6-person, excuse me, I just think is an interesting dynamic, and I want to see more of that because it plays into it so well. Like you said, the way that Rhea got involved, she's not afraid to take on the guys, but the guys won't take on Rhea, and I just think it's a great way to get these guys over and get Judgment Day winning more. And at the end of the day, this Judgment Day faction is more about getting Rhea and Damian Priest more up the card than it is about AJ, unfortunately.
Joe, I completely 100% agree. And the thing is, I think it's accomplishing that as well. Rhea looks like a star. You went on about the ring gear, but in this match, Rhea was the standout. She was the MVP of this match. And obviously, you look as well from a popularity standpoint as well, just to give both of the women a shout out. Liv Morgan was getting a hell of a reaction in this match, even more than AJ and Finn, in my personal opinion. The women are doing a fantastic job here. You could be seeing two of the rising stars of the future. And just to touch back onto Rhea very, very quickly, I wouldn't be surprised if she was actually the next full-on challenger for Bianca Belair, particularly going into SummerSlam, maybe even Clash at the Castle. I think she could be the one that could take that championship.
I'm going to throw something at here. Rhea Ripley is the next Intercontinental Champion to emulate Chyna. I'm not being funny. She's got the credentials to do it. She's got the physique. She can take. She's like Nia Jax did in the men's Rumble. I'm throwing it out now. Rhea Ripley as a future Intercontinental Champion. I can 100% see it happening.
Interesting stuff indeed. That is a bold prediction there. But I will say I agree, by the way, with your Finn Balor prediction. Jonesy has also gone in and said, let's hope that Finn becomes the Demon. He'd love to see the Demon as a heel. Certainly make an interesting dynamic with the Demon. It would, Demon in purple, I think, would be really, really fascinating. But obviously in the suit as well, the how we would be normally on a normal week-to-week basis as well. I think he does fit in that group a lot better than Ciampa and some of the other names we've thrown out previously. So I do actually say that I actually really want Finn Balor to join this group now. Like you said there, Finn versus AJ would be amazing.
Yeah, I didn't, but after last night, I'm all for Finn joining now. Like I said, I wanted AJ and Finn together, but yeah, like you just said, Finn aesthetically will fit perfectly in this group. And if I want to see a purple demon, Finn Balor, that's the only way I'm going to get it.
Yeah, absolutely indeed there. And Martin Hugo said, do you guys remember the heel turn of Finn Balor on NXT and he attacked Johnny Gargano? Certainly do. What he needs to do is turn heel at this point. People like Becky, Roman, and Bayley have succeeded by doing so. What a fantastic point here by Martin.
Yeah, Finn's great at doing it. My concern is that AJ and Liv are going to run out of people to team up with at this point, and it's just going to be a 4-on-2 mobbing at some point. So unless they're planning on doing a return for someone, I know there's a lot of rumors that Bray Wyatt may be linked with possibly coming back to WWE. Imagine if you had a Bray Wyatt come back to take on the Demon Finn Balor. That might be kind of crazy, kind of cool. I don't know. But yeah, that's my only worry is AJ's going to run out of people to team up with. Liv just seems to be really unlucky as well. Like she always manages to get almost to the title and then just loses at the last step. But yeah, like I said, the heel turn for Finn is great, and his whole NXT run when he came back was amazing.
It certainly was indeed there. Just one thing, we mentioned about ring attires, by the way. Did you notice that all the baby faces, you mentioned Bullet Club there, they're wearing the black and white? Yeah. It was quite complicated, like aesthetically matched up. I thought it was really good, man. Like I said, I just thought it was brilliant. It certainly was indeed there. And Jones is going to say that they can go back into when Finn fell off the ropes and the Demon could come out and say he felt Finn was too weak to win the world title.
Oh, God. Please don't remind me that... hang on, my headset connected. Oh, no, it's fine. I thought my headset disconnected. Yeah, please don't remind me that Finn fell off that turnbuckle, because for me, that was so upsetting and so painful to watch. And then we never got a payoff for it. Why did the turnbuckle collapse? Don't know. Poor ring maintenance? Who knows exactly?
Act of God, according to Paul Heyman. Yeah, it was one of those things. Let's give a star rating then for that 6-person tag team match. What would you give it?
I'd go 3.5 for me. I just think it was the right decision. It was entertaining. It was, for me, a pay-per-view level match. I thought like it deserved to be on a pay-per-view and not a Raw or SmackDown. But I'd say 3.5. Like I said, hopefully it's building to an even bigger payoff at the end.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. 100% there. 3.5 for me. Then you mentioned about AJ and Edge earlier. Didn't put my comment on it. You could see Edge was down for the long time. Like you said, it was a key point of the match. The job would have been done. So eventually AJ will get the win over Edge, and it will be with that phenomenal forearm. We know it can do the job to put Edge away. So fantastic point there, NXT.
Just a bit of prop for Edge as well. The fact that, I mean, when he initially came back, I believe he was signed up to do maybe 4 to 6 matches a year. And the fact that we're getting Edge on TV near enough every week, we're getting at least one match a month. Again, props to Edge for being able to still do this at his age and after coming back from his injury. So yeah, again, just making the most and appreciating what we've got left with him and his time as a professional wrestler.
Absolutely, we should so all day long appreciate it indeed. Though, and Jonesy is on one this evening. We'll quickly go this back from the previous one here. Minute on the question, lads. Will Zeke get his Peggy Sue like the Ponky Tonk Man there? That's a fun old school retro reference there.
No, he's going to get his Miss Elizabeth, like the Macho Man.
There you go. There you go. That's perfectly answered there for you. Well, I'll tell you what, let's move on next then to what was the No Holds Barred match. We said we were talking about it at some point. Madcap Moss or Madcap. Some say one, say the other. We're not sure if it's one-worded name for him at the moment or if he's still got the Moss in there. One point at this moment, though, we do know it's Happy Corbin. This match was, I think, was all right for the most part with the No Holds Barred stipulation. Worked fairly well. What were some of your thoughts of it?
Baron Corbin was the hero for this for me. His character work was perfect. The way the crowd would constantly ask for a table and he would tell them no, and his character dynamic and his portrayal I thought was really good. The match itself, yes, like the some of the spots were really good. The whole the chair around Moss's neck and into the side of the commentary table was good. The whole fall away slam into the tilted ring steps was good. Yeah, there was a lot of good spots on this. It felt like a pay-per-view level match, but my problem was the result on this one, because this is 2 matches in a row now. It's 2 matches at 2 predictions in a row. Madcap Moss has cost me a perfect score because he cost me Backlash and he cost me this one. And then I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, why have we had the same match 2 pay-per-views in a row with the same payoff? Like, what's the ultimate end goal? Because if it's trying to recreate or reinvent Madcap Moss, I'm sorry, he currently looks like generic default wrestler from a SmackDown game. He's come out in generic black trousers. He looks like, if you've ever played a WWE wrestling game and you go into a moveset of a wrestler, he looks like the generic guy that does the moves on the wrestling game. And it's just like, what was the whole point of him getting the win over Baron Corbin or Happy Corbin for me? I felt the outcome was wrong, and I felt Corbin should have won at least one of these matches, whether it was the last one, but more importantly, this one, because he lost the last one.
Certainly indeed. Well, interesting stuff indeed. For me, I think it was the right move of Madcap winning, but I do get what you mean, though, with the generic style now. Should he have kept the suspenders?
I just do something different. He's in black trunks. He looks like, do you know, if you've ever watched a New Japan match and they have the young boys and the young boys come out and they're just in black gear, and it's like these guys are training to be future WWE stars, future New Japan stars. Madcap Moss looks like he's currently still trying to be a future WWE superstar, and he already is one. And it's like, what he aesthetically, for me, has no appeal to him. I'm not particularly fond of his character work. He has in-ring ability, yes, but that's only going to get you so far. And if you come out every week looking like generic wrestler 101 and you've got nothing special about you, then what's the draw there? That's my only thing about it. I've got no reason to tune in and see Madcap Moss. Baron Corbin, or Happy Corbin, has a character to him. I would rather sit there and watch Happy Corbin at this current moment than Madcap Moss. And Madcap Moss is the one that is winning these matches.
Interesting. No, it's very good points that you make there. You know, and we got a response here from Martin saying that Madcap Moss's Raw Underground gimmick is kind of what it is going at the minute. Hopefully, it will evolve further into it. I mean, for me, I actually am a fan of Madcap. I will say, never liked the corny jokes, didn't like the rolling around, but I liked the in-ring ability of this guy. Now we've seen him go a bit more serious. I hope that it can take him to a next level. I kind of look at him like, do you know what? I'm not going to compare him to Batista, but I'm going to sort of say, like, we had Deacon Batista when he first came in and the gimmick that he shouldn't have been in. Then he kind of was like this Batista was just in trunks, and then they took him to another level by putting him in Evolution. I think Madcap needs that next step now to get him to the next level. But they've put him on premium live events all year, minus WrestleMania, but he then won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on WrestleMania SmackDown. They are trying to make a new start out of Madcap, and I think that wins is the thing that's going to get him there. And it felt like Chicago, on the whole, was sort of on his side in this match. I mean, do you reckon? I mean, this is a question I'm going to ask you because this is the question I wanted to bring up earlier to you. Happy Corbin was amazing with the table spots. Everyone chanting for tables, and he sort of was like, "Yeah, no," and he pulled out a chair, and he was like, "This is better."
Yeah,
anyway,
brilliant.
using the chair, brilliant, great character work. Do you think that maybe they should have called an audible? I know it was supposed to be in the main event match, but it would have given Madcap just that bit of an extra pop if he was the one that pulled out the table first.
Yeah, 100%. If exactly spot on there. If Madcap Moss would have pulled out, the crowd would have got massively behind him, and then when he did win, it would have made it would have been even more. But they've got more of a reaction from that Chicago crowd than it was ultimately due, because just for the sheer fact of pulling out a table, even putting him through the announcers table or something crazy like that. Do you know what I mean? Because let's be honest, the announcers table wasn't used at any point through the night. They're not going to use it in the Hell in a Cell because it's behind the cage barrier. So yeah, why didn't they just use the commentary table and have the commentary table be put through? Yeah, it's like I said, it's exactly the right call there. They should have called an audible and had Madcap Moss doing this. But then again, personally, this match shouldn't have even been on the card because, let's be honest, it was put on there Friday. It's the only SmackDown roster match that was on the card. And like I've said to you before, yesterday, it's criminal that the fact that we're getting Gunther versus Ricochet for the IC title on SmackDown next week, and it's gone 14 months now. 14 months without having the IC title defended on pay-per-view event. Just find it criminal.
It is criminal. It should be on a POE. There's no argument with that. My only wondering with it is that they think that that's maybe a bigger drawing match, the IC title for Fox Network. Maybe they want to keep Fox happy with the ratings. Obviously, SmackDown is struggling a little bit of recent, so maybe that could be the reason why. But you mentioned about character work. I mean, Happy Corbin, I've got to say, I definitely would like that shirt if at any point that was available anywhere, because there's definitely a barbecue in my future wearing one of those. I won't lie to you. But going into the comment section here, Martin's saying that at this point, Madcap and Happy Corbin should stay away from stairs. Totally agree. Obviously, it played into the finish, didn't it, with the chair wrapped around Corbin's neck and then the stairs there for the pin. Kind of the perfect payoff after what was done to Madcap a few weeks earlier. And of course, we're being told that Madcap won't be so happy now that he's had his turn to hit the hospital. Maybe he's going to be written off TV for a short time now. Maybe apparently he's was expecting some paternity leave, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe this is a perfect way to write him off for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's very possibly true. I didn't know that, so that's new to me. So yeah, like it makes all the sense. But then, like I said, he should have won the last one, because then Moss winning this would have been a bigger deal if he'd lost the last pay-per-view match. But I was just sitting there thinking, while he was talking, and I was like, where Madcap Moss goes from here? And I was like, he's another one I can see being in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He's just another one I can see being in there.
I could see that, actually. And I think, do you know what? I think it'd be the right call, actually, because it's kind of like those strike when the iron's hot, like the Alex Rileys of the world that found their way into the, it's up to them afterwards to try and make something of it and get over further. For Liv Morgan last year, it was an opportunity. Look what she's done since. She's gone on against Becky Lynch, had a program against her. Now is in this program with Judgment Day alongside AJ and Finn, and now getting a bigger reaction. It's his chance to make it count. So, I wouldn't be against Madcap going into it. But Martin's giving his star rating. It said a 3 out of 5 star match overall, but wish they'd done more. What would be your rating of the Madcap?
I'd actually go with Martin on that one. I'd probably say a 3, just because the fact it was a no holds barred match, I think made it a bit more entertaining. Some of the spots they did were, then Baron Corbin's character work alone was a decent enough point that I feel this deserves a 3 for me.
Certainly, I agree with that wholeheartedly as well. We'll go with a 3 out of 5. But we have one more match to talk about then, because we've already covered the main event. Let's talk about the United States Championship. Theory defending against hometown boy Mustafa Ali, who, let's be fair, the fans were doing their best to get behind him. But I just felt a little bit like that they were given a bit of a rough spot here. It's the match before the main event. I think people were gearing up for it. For me, I don't know. It just wasn't the same investment. I think what could have been the problem was the story of this match, because Fury had been avoiding the idea of facing Ali for the whole time. And then he got to Raw and he got told you have to have that clean match. And he was kind of like, all right then. And then he kind of quite comfortably put Mustafa Ali away in his hometown. It's not really done much for Ali, this, of course, winning with his finisher in the end there. But so what were your thoughts with this? I thought as a visual spectacle, it was a good wrestling match. But from storylines and for the fact that, for me, I just feel like, I don't know where Ali goes next. It hasn't done a lot for me either.
Unfortunately, this was never really about Ali, and I chimed in on your prediction show with Jones and said that the hometown hero is going to lose because that's what Vince loves doing. He loves having the hometown hero losing. So Ali going into Chicago for a United States Championship match was just, for me, this was the dead cert of the night. I know Theory's going to win this, but this is more about Theory and where he's going. I saw things today where people saying that they could possibly do John Cena versus Theory at SummerSlam for the US title, which I don't think is a bad shout. I think Theory getting a win over someone like John Cena will do a lot for him. But yeah, this was just the decision was right for Theory to win on the basis of how the main event was going to go as well. You wouldn't really want a hometown hero winning the match before, because you're gonna gas out the crowd. So you'd rather have a crowd be all booed and annoyed and angry that the fact that their hometown heroes lost, to then go on and have that quality of a main event and bring the roof down. So yeah, it was the right decision. But I just, for Ali, unfortunately, I think this doesn't go anywhere, and I think he's going to be relegated to probably sitting in the 24/7 division, unfortunately.
That's a shame if that's the case, because obviously just come back to TV, a lot of promise as well in him as a star. So I hope that there's a direction from going forward. As for Theory, I can see him going into the United States the Money in the Bank program. I reckon he'll go into that ladder match there. Probably asking Vince to get the opportunity to be in there, I think would be quite nice as a visual on Raw. Maybe being told if he needs to earn it or not, prove himself that he should be in these sort of occasions. What would be your thoughts of Theory? Should it be in Money in the Bank?
Yeah, you'll probably find his next feud will come out of Money in the Bank. So someone inevitably is going to cost him. For instance, a Madcap Moss will cost him an opportunity of winning it, and that will be Moss's next story, which will be a whole United States title run between him and Theory. But that's just personally where I would thought would go. But yeah, for me, I think if their goal is to have Cena versus Theory at SummerSlam, Austin needs to be coming up against people that he can beat. I don't want to see him go up against the likes of, for instance, of Gunther and beat Gunther, and then he beats Gunther. It doesn't do anything for me. Whereas if he's beating people that he should be beating, going into a match against John Cena at SummerSlam will give him more credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's the big get if he could beat a John Cena. No, it's fine. It's a big get if he could beat John Cena. Obviously, it's a big time match if that can happen. And I mean, it would put Theory on the map completely. I mean, he's kind of on the map already, but this would take him to another level. For me personally, to give this a star rating, the match was fine, but it's a TV match overall. Got to give it a 2-star. I can't go any higher.
Exactly the same. Yeah, I think I'll be generous and go 2.25 just because I think Ali, his selling ability and his ability in ring. To be fair, both of them have great in-ring ability, which I think was a wide rate a bit higher just because then Omos and Lashley, I just feel that these two can put on a decent match if you took everything out of it, these two would still be able to have a really good match.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, that's it. Well, that's pretty much covers the whole of the Hell in a Cell show then from top to bottom. Obviously, that leaves us then to give our rating of the show. And I don't go with the 5 stars when it comes to the actual show rating. I always go with a score out of 10. So what would be your score out of 10 for this show of Hell in a Cell?
For me, I want to rate it higher, really, but I'm probably going to say a 7. I think just for the pure fact that the first and the last matches were match of the year candidates for me, but there was a lot of filler in the middle, aside from really probably the Judgment Day match. I could have really done without the 3 matches that were on the card. So I'd say a 7 just because it was really entertaining. So that I think the first and last match really do save it for me. I was expecting this to be a lot worse of a show than what it was. So I think 7 is a generous score from me.
Absolutely. I think with a lot of the filler in the show, you could have argued and said this is like a 4 out of 5 out of 10, but obviously with the good stuff, it bumps it right up to about a 7. I think a 7 is a fair score to give this show. Obviously, with the lights there, we said there were Cody and Seth, unbelievable what those guys did. The opener as well.
Absolutely.
Judgment Day, I thought was really good. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, I would say those are the things to go out your way to check out. No holds barred as well if you want to go and check out one other match of the show as well. But all in all, I think this was good. And yeah, we'll see where it needs to now going in towards Money in the Bank, which obviously is the next premium live event, which is of course taking place on July the 2nd. So yeah, hopefully the next few weeks, like you said, hopefully we've got some qualifiers on the way.
Yeah, like I said, it'd be nice to. This was my whole thing with the Rumble. It's the same thing. I'd want. They do it with the Rumble where they're like, okay, well, here's a graphics of 20 of the superstars that's going to be in the Rumble, and it's like I don't want to know who's in the Rumble. I want the surprise of not knowing who the entrant is going to be. If you tell me 20 of the superstars, then I'm 2/3 of the way already know what's going to happen. So I know I can see from most of these people here who's not going to win it. I'd rather just expect a unexpected entrance. But same with Money in the Bank. I don't want Monday Night Raw tonight, and they're going to already have announced 4 of the 6 participants for the Money in the Bank. I want to see people generally have to fight for a spot in it, because at the minute there's not a lot of top stars that should be in this match. You've got your likes of your AJ, but who's currently tied up in the story already. You've probably got Bobby. They're probably going to put someone like Riddle in, maybe Orton. But I want to see people earn their spot rather than just be giving it. I think it just makes it more entertaining. Plus, it actually gives them something to put on the TV, because at the minute, SmackDown last week was very painful to watch. I struggled to get through it this week.
Yeah, I would. I'd actually say the last couple of months, SmackDown has been more of a hard slog than it has been previously. But you know, Pat McAfee on commentary can only take it so far, I think, with the occasional add-ons that they do in the show. But fingers crossed, there will be some good stuff going forward. But we will just quickly give a shout out to Martin Career as well. We've got our last comments in before we come off the stream, saying that hope they give Ali something to be invested in. But if you look at the story they were playing, they should have had here Ali winning, since he was the underdog. And him losing clean doesn't make him a contender anymore, unfortunately. No, it doesn't. I do, in a way, I see where Steve was coming from with having the heel go over before the last match. If this match was placed somewhere differently in the night, like I said, I would have quite liked to have seen a hot potato scenario with the United States Championship.
Yes.
Those two going for the rest of the summer up until the draft. But what would you like to see go on with Ali next? Because it does feel to me like that the best thing they could have done, but now they can't do because it's been done in another company, would have been to have tried to done like a worked shoot promo environment. I think Ali's frustrations may have been saying they would have got him over, but now MJF has done it, you can't really do a carbon copy 7 days later.
Yeah, I mean, I initially thought that him and Mansoor were going to team up and be a tag team, and like they'd go on and get at least a tag team run out of it, because it would have helped Mansoor get over more as well. Like, let's be honest, Mansoor normally only pops up whenever they do Crown Jewel or something to do in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, like I said, I would have thought that would have been the dynamic for them going forward. They could have had them 2 winning tag team titles out in Crown Jewel. It would have been a good spot for them. They could have gone on to have a decent run, some decent feuds with the likes of Alpha Academy. But obviously they decided to cut it short, have a short rivalry of 1 match, I believe it was. And then obviously Ali wants to leave, and then he released all the stuff, the character stuff that he wanted to do, like this sort of weird presidential candidatorial election kind of thing on Raw, which looked really intriguing and interesting. It's a shame that they never went with it. I mean, I don't think there's a lot WWE can do to get him to stay with the company, and I think it's just a case of he's biding his time until his contract is up, which is what I believe 2.5 years away. So yeah, I think it's just a case of you'll see him here, there, and everywhere. He'll be in 24/7 scenes. He'll be in Andre the Memorial Battle Royals and stuff like that. But at the minute, I've got no faith in WWE doing anything creative with him, which is a crying shame, because man, if they still had the Cruiserweight division, him in the Cruiserweight division was unreal.
It was, yeah. There were some great times with 205 when he was involved with that. Some of the best sort of character work he was doing for himself each and every week. It was a must-see show around that 2018 time with Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander, and Drew Gulak and the rest. But Martin Greer saying, well, good review, guys. Enjoyed your thoughts. Have a good one. Thank you so much, Martin. And thank you to everyone that has been commenting, watching the stream as well. Hope you've all enjoyed it. If you're watching on delay, then feel free to drop a comment afterwards, as well as, importantly, as well, drop a like as well if you've enjoyed this video. It really does help with the algorithms and trying to spread the word out on YouTube. I feel YouTube's trying to make it a tougher time for me of late, not really spreading the content the same way they were doing earlier in the year. I think it's because it's getting near that magic monetization. They're trying to not make it easy for me to get over the line, but together we can do it. And NXT Steve, I want to say a big thank you to you as always, taking the time out to come and review the show with me. It really does mean a lot. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can have you back on the show sometime again soon.
Yeah, man, would love to come back as usual. It's always a pleasure, Steve, being on your channel here. Hopefully we can do something maybe around Money in the Bank time. So I look forward to seeing that with you, or say doing something. I know you're probably going to throw some sort of random question at me at some point in the future about maybe Survivor Series or SummerSlam that I'm going to have to get involved in. So I'm like, do you know what I mean, getting prepared to do my homework on something in the near future.
Absolutely. Well, maybe Money in the Bank. You never know. That could be the next one. That's definitely one that could be coming out in the next week or so. Certainly this week, I'll be focusing a lot on Money in the Bank. Maybe I wanted to get a Summer of MJF video out, and I just haven't had the opportunity to get that out yet, unfortunately. And of course, with all the changes of AEW, a little bit of my fantasy booking went a little bit against the window with CM Punk's injury. But I've tweaked it a little bit. I think it'll make a good video when it does come out eventually. But also, like I say, Slammiversary on the way as well. So there's lots coming up, and I will be dropping videos on everything pro wrestling related. But thanks for watching anyway. Take care, enjoy yourselves, have a good one. Thanks for supporting SCW as always, and yeah, we'll see you very, very soon. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to check out the latest Ask SCW, and I've got to say some loaded questions on that one. It was a lot of fun to record. That is available on the channel right now, so go and check it out.